What's up, everyone? Back for another beer review, and today is another installment of a Macro Monday here on the channel, where I review a beer from a macro brewery or a macro-esque beer from a craft brewery. And the beer I'm reviewing today once again comes from Grupo Modelo, and they are headquartered in Mexico City, Mexico, and this is their Corona Extra, otherwise known as just Corona. So this is a Mexican lager that comes in at 4.6% alcohol by volume, 18 IBUs at the time of review. I don't know exactly how old this can is, but it does have a best by date of April 2024. We're about 5 months away from that month, so we should be fine. Now, if you're watching this review, you have most likely had Corona at some point in the past. And for me, I've had this beer numerous times. I've had it on draft, I've had it in the bottles, I've had it in cans, and it's always just been, I can't even say decent. For me, it's not one of my favorite. And I'm just being upfront and honest with you. Sometimes when I revisit beers like this during a review, I sometimes like them more than I used to. Sometimes I like them less. But this is just not one of my go-tos when it comes to Mexican lagers. I'd much rather have Modelo. I, for the first time, reviewed Bohemia this year, and I'd much rather have that. Sol, Tecate, Pacifico. I'd rather have all of those over this. Now, I grabbed this because I wanted to review a beer from Macro Monday, and I really didn't think of anything in advance, and I saw a big can of it, and I was like, you know what, we're going to review it. So here we are. Now, again, this is just a Mexican lager. It's imported, a little bit more expensive. We'll talk about price and availability at the end of the review, but we're going to crack this one open, and we're going to spill it, because these big 24-ounce cans and crawlers and everything, I always spill on my channel. I don't know how to pour them properly. Even when I'm not reviewing, I don't know how to pour them, so I will guarantee that we lose at least like an ounce on a table, but we will see. We'll pour it into the Jenny glass here, and here we go. Oh my God, did I just talk out of my ass? I usually do. That's my reviews in a nutshell, but I poured this nicely. Well, I don't know if the actual pour is nice, but I didn't spill any, therefore I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back. Throw this over here. Now, the reason I got it in the can instead of the bottles is because A, I could buy a single of it, and B, we all know with Corona, the whole clear bottle can get light struck really easily. With the cans, you don't have to worry about that, so there's not gonna be any skunkiness, or there shouldn't be, and that was a big selling point for me picking up the can. So yeah, that looks like any other fizzy yellow beer. Fantastic, superb clarity, has that straw golden color. Had about a finger of a bright white head that has now dissipated to a thin film. Don't know what's going on. I use this glass all the time, and usually that does not happen, especially with these Macro Mondays. Hold it up to the light, and yeah, it has great carbonation and exactly kind of what you're looking for from a beer like this, but I wish the head retention was a little bit better. Could be on me, maybe, I just did a poor job cleaning this glass this time around, or maybe not. I don't know. Let's get a nose. There's a generic maltiness here that is providing like a corny, almost tortilla chip kind of vibe to it. And I get that a lot of times just in generic adjunct lagers. But yeah, grainy, corny. There's a little bit of like and they say on like the website, and you'll see like this a lot of, they'll say, oh, this is honey and fruity. Maybe a little bit of like a honey kind of note, like a little sweeter kind of aroma. There's really no hops to speak of here. If so, like a very faint, like grassy floral thing. But it smells like so many of the Mexican lagers I've had, the adjunct lagers I've had and I've reviewed. It's just, it is what it is. It's this is a drinking beer, something that a lot of people won't think about. A lot of people will be throwing a lime wedge into their bottle to drink this with. I'm reviewing it just on its own merits. No lime wedge here. But yeah, does it smell offensive? Not in the least. Does it smell like anything great? No, it's very mild from an aroma standpoint, and that's fine. Let's get into it. Cheers, everyone. So here's the thing I'll say about Macro Monday and a lot of these macro beers that I'm reviewing. A lot of them are very similar, okay? There's slight differences between them, obviously. I haven't really had one that has just kind of made me say, ugh, like this is disgusting. For the most part, they've been very inoffensive at the worst. And this is kind of in that same realm. I've always used to rate this like a 2 out of 5. But going back, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I really didn't, clamor for beers like this. But as I am reviewing more beers and trying out more macro beers and reviewing them for the first time like this, I realize that there's a time and place for every beer. I always say that, but I don't think this is terrible. I mean, I'm sure people out there hate this beer. For me, it's just kind of a beer, right? But it's so mild in flavor. Buying this, higher side of light body. Very crisp, the mouthfeel, very crisp. It's super clean, effervescent. The carbonation dancing on the tongue. So body mouthfeel appropriate for what you're looking for at a 4.6% Mexican lager. The taste, I'm not going to sit here and bore you to death with 7,000 different tasting notes that don't exist. From front to back, there is a malty kind of sweetness. It has, again, a tortilla chip kind of feel to it. It definitely has like a corn chip kind of feel. And that's front to back. On the back of the palate, there is a mild bitterness that is more to the grassy, I'd say more grassy than floral, very mild bitterness. There is a nice semi-dry kind of finish. It is a little bit sweeter for me. There's no off flavors. There's no skunkiness, thankfully, because this is not a bottle. Now, if I got a bottle of it and it was hanging out in the lights, on the shelf for a couple of weeks or a month or whatever, who knows? But there is no skunkiness here. That's why I will always advocate, in general, cans over bottles. Oxidation, not really an issue, and obviously the light struck issue doesn't exist with cans. Here's the thing. I understand why people put a lime wedge in here. Did I say lemon at the beginning, or did I say lime? A lime wedge. The reason for it is because it adds some kind of citrus character to this. I'm really not getting any of that. They say fruity and honey and all that stuff. Not really. I mean, if I really wanted to stretch it and say, okay, there's a little bit like a honey kind of character, maybe. Maybe a slight red apple core, like an orchard fruit. Very slight though. For the most part, it's malty. It has a lot of that corny tortilla chip kind of vibe to it. It's semi-dry. It's pretty balanced. It's not terrible. It's not great. It's just kind of in that wheelhouse of, if someone handed me this and I was at a party or a barbecue or something, I would have no issues drinking it, but I really wouldn't want to. And that's kind of where I'll leave this one. I've gotten kind of lax with the ratings probably over the couple of years. I rate stuff a little bit higher just because I'm starting to understand that I like most styles, and that unless a beer is really just brewed improperly, or there's a lot of faults with them, or maybe something doesn't work specifically for me, a lot of beers are very inoffensive to my palate. And this is a perfect example where, to me, there's absolutely nothing wrong with Corona. I'm drinking it out of the can to eliminate the light struck issue. It's an easygoing beer. It's 4.6%. You can't really taste the alcohol. You could down a couple of these on a very hot day and be refreshed. It's quite refreshing. But at the end of the day, like, it doesn't have a lot of flavor. So, as far as rating goes on a Corona Extra, and I don't know if I had the bigger side facing forward. This is the bigger side. It doesn't really matter. But as far as this beer goes, rating wise, for like a Mexican lager, I'd probably give it like a 3.5. It's fine. It's serviceable. It does the job. Like I said, I'd much rather have Modelo over this. I'd much rather have Bohemia by far, and the others that I mentioned that I won't rename. But personal preference, I can't give this really higher than like a 3.1. So we'll go high 3 out of 5, 3.1. It's fine. Again, it's something that I would have no issues drinking really at any point. I just don't really seek it out. Now, I know there's people out there that love this. You'll probably come to my review, call me an idiot, and that's fine, because I am. But we all have different palates. We all have different likes. If this is your favorite Mexican lager, what is your least favorite? I'd like to know, because again, if this is one of my least favorite Mexican lagers, you know kind of what my favorites are. I'm just saying Modelo, and of course, like I said, the Bohemia now is definitely up there as well. But yeah, at the end of the day, the issue I have with this beer and a lot of the imports that in the same style is the price. So I paid $2.99 for that can, not that bad. But if you want to get like a 6-pack of bottles here in the Western New York area, more specifically Buffalo, they're around like $10, $11 for a 6-pack, and like a 12-pack is in like the $18 range. That's pretty crazy, especially now taking consideration, I do like Genesee. I'm drinking this out of a Genesee cream ale glass. I can get like Genesee's, really anything of a 12-pack for under like 10, 11 bucks. So for a 12-pack of this for 18, and I can get Jenny the same thing for like $6 less, there's no way I'd ever grab this over the Jenny cream ale or Jenny beer or anything. So keep that in mind, price point, and it's going to vary from state to state, from country to country. But here in the Western New York area, it's a bit pricey, and availability is Corona. You should find it pretty much everywhere. Yeah, they also have Corona Premier, which is a lighter version of this. I've never had it. and maybe I need to review it, but I can't understand how you could get much lighter than what's in my glass here. Maybe just a more watery mouthfeel and a body of mouthfeel. It's fine. So 3.1 out of 5 for Corona, stylistically like a 3.5. Definitely one of my least favorite. Again, now as I'm talking, there's a little bit more of a hop character. And so again, more of a grassy floral kind of feeling on the back of the palate. But again, it's mild. But as I drank on it more and more each sip, I could definitely notice it. It's not bad. And yeah, anyway, so if you've had this beer before, and again, I'm sure a lot of you have, post a comment section. Let me know what you think about this one. Do you prefer buying it in the bottles or in the cans or perhaps on draft? Do you drink it with a lime wedge or without? Because I've had this with the lime wedge and I think it's a little bit better, but again, you're adding, fruit to the beer. So there's, at the end of the day, like it probably will improve something like this. Probably be the case for most Mexican lagers, but just on its own by itself, it is what it is. So that does it for another Macro Monday. I don't know what I'm going to review in 3 weeks for another Macro Monday. We'll see. If anybody out there has suggestions, I do have a little bit of a list, but most of the beers on the list, I can't really grab all that easily. Certainly singles are an issue. So yeah, throw some more suggestions if you can into the comment section. I would love to know. And I've started this channel earlier. I've started this series or whatever you want to call it earlier this year, and it's been a lot of fun. I like revisiting a lot of these beers, but I also like trying some new macro beers for the first time ever. So yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna shut this one down. Appreciate it. To the next one. Cheers.